Jay, you got my message about the prayer. Yeah.
Okay, you are live.
I would like to call the Monday, April 22nd, 2024 work session to order. I'll now take roll. Mr. McDaniel.
Here.
Mr. Lyons.
Here.
Mr. Day.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
And the chair is here. We have the presentation of the VDOT draft 6-year plan. Mr. Suter.
Yes. So in accordance with our standard process, Residency Administrator Susan Hammond is with us tonight to present the draft 6-year plan. And as the plan has been posted since last week, and hopefully there's been a little time for review, I've asked her to move through as briefly as possible, with the understanding we also have the FY25 budget scheduled for this hour. No action is requested here, but it's also on your regular agenda at 5:30 is the first regular item. If any changes come as a result of this meeting, you can certainly communicate that in the work session here. And I just want to remind everybody that I have been continue to record all requests from citizens and board members. Typically, you all will get a request, and I forward those to Ms. Hammond and her staff. And so those have been considered during the inclusion of the draft here tonight.
Did you promote me to panelist?
Sure. That's fine.
All right.
Should pop you in there.
It's working.
Okay, Mr. Harrison's going to share the screen of what Ms. Hammond's going to present.
Ms. Hammond, come on up. It's good to see you.
You too. I have extra copies.
Please.
I'd like one.
Yes.
As you know, it's sort of hard to read online. It is.
There's 10.
You don't have to worry about it. Thank you.
And the second attachment is a little bit better cleaned up than the one that was sent electronically. That one is.
Oh, thank you.
I really
That wasn't
liked-
just me
I
then.
didn't like
Okay.
the way that it looks.
Yes.
so
Fine, I'll
tidied it
scratch
up a little bit. So I'll go ahead and jump in. We'll try to make this as quick a review as possible. You still have the same 2 funding sources on the front page. If you want to start with you still have telefees that are distributed out for a total in the 6-year period of $331,470, and district grant unpaved, which is required to be spent on unpaved roads, of $2.462 million for a total of $2,793,573 for the full 6 years. We have, I'm going to go through these in groups real quick. The first project that is Rafine Road, Route 606, is a project that is completed. It is marked for deletion. There's a series of financial things that it has to go through in order for that to come off. There is no activity on that project at all. The remaining projects that are on that page that go from Snakefoot Lane down to Miller Burke Highway are all under construction now. The next page, which goes from Little Dry Hollow down to Fredericksburg Road. There's no change to those. They are still active in the process. The following page, Round Hill Road to Chestnut Grove were all in your plan last year. So no changes to those either. The next 2, Eastfield Road and Seville Lane, are added. Those are new, added to this this 6-year plan. And the other thing that we had to do in this one these dollar values up until money is actually allocated are projected dollar values. So sometimes as you get into the next 5 years ahead of you, you have adjustments that you have to make. So sometimes we have deficits for what was anticipated that have to be adjusted. But for the most part, it hasn't made any significant impact to any of your project schedules that are in there at all. And then the last, the last couple of line items that you see in there are standard countywide charges that we leave in there just in case we have something unforeseen that shows up that they're not specific to one individual location, but can be used at varying locations if we have something that crops up that we need to address at some point. Usually a very low dollar value. We're talking, you know, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 total. So that's the construction 6-year plan. Then there's another attachment that is just a different layout of the same information that shows the annual distribution of funds, if you're interested in that. Normally, I don't go over that with you all, but if you did want to see what the individual allocations were by year rather than just by project, you can see it in that sheet as well. But both the information should be reflective. It's just one report in a different variation than what the other one is. If you all have any questions for me.
As usual, I have a couple of questions. Continuing to learn, as you said, Eastfield Road, which is good, but it says phase 2 was added. What is a phase 2 to a rural rustic project? I'm not sure I've seen that before.
Well,
Does that simply mean an extension of
yes. It means that there was a section that was in there previously. This would just be the next section.
Okay. Thank you. I see that the telefee revenue is not budgeted to increase at all.
No.
Is that something you have insight into, or?
What that dollar value is, there is, I think it still shows up on this phone bill. There's a line item in there for that utility companies pay to us that covers their ability to be within the state right of way. Well, part of that code section requires that any funds that are collected in that locality go back to the locality where they're collected. So basically what this shows is that there isn't an anticipated increase in the amount of those utilities that are located within the right of way. It tends to be relatively flat.
Thank you.
Yep.
Gentlemen, anything else?
I've got two more.
Oh, please,
It won't
go
take
right
too
ahead.
long. Just right on. Said, what's going on Route 712, which is out near where I live? Is there a bridge being rebuilt? Do you know?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, it's being replaced. That's being done. That's outside of this program. That's
Yes.
being done
I know.
with our maintenance crew.
I saw the detour signs go up this morning. I was like, what's going on?
They'll be replacing that bridge.
Were they? Well, I don't get out much, Bob. So it wasn't different. And what's going on at the bridge crew office out on Route 39? It looks like there's some excavation. Are y'all adding something?
We're not, no, we're adding surface area. The configuration of that building and also the change in the size of equipment that we have gotten, the bridge crew vehicle is large, and it's very difficult for them to make some of the turning radiuses on that lot and be able to get into the garage bay that's theirs. All I have to say is that they're excellent drivers. So what we're doing is we're doing is expanding the pad so that they've got some vehicles, and we're going to be able to have them on that lower end and separate them away from where we have our spreaders and things like that, so that all of their equipment is down on that one end. But there isn't any additional building or anything like that that's going on. It strictly is just a parking pad.
Inquiring minds want to know. Thank you, ma'am.
We still have plenty of time, so.
This is the shortest presentation from Susan.
It is. Well, I do, it does, correct me if, it does seem like the list is shortening. I mean, I feel like,
Actually not.
oh,
It's actually not. It's about the same. And like I say, we've got several projects that are under construction now, which is great.
Finally.
Yes, I mean, there are 5 on that front page that are under construction now. That should be finished in this construction season. We put a lot of the pipes in, over the winter and let them settle, and then we can go back in, dress everything up, make sure all the brush and everything is cut back, and then shoot the surface on them. So
Mhm.
hopefully, if all goes well, we don't have to touch them for at least 5 years. That's the goal anyway. The other thing that is the same as what we've done in previous years is anytime that we have projects that are completed, I think we've done a good job with our estimating so that we don't have balances that we have to pull from the next project in line. We try to make sure that we have enough budget in there to kind of account for any sort of contingency that may come up during the project. But what that has allowed us to do is we usually have a little bit of a balance on the project that we can transfer to the next project in line and hopefully move that schedule along a little faster.
Mhm. Very nice. Thank you.
Susan, is one of those the pipes, Union Run?
Yes.
Okay.
And that there's 2, Union Run and Eastfield Road, that should be, I think they're going to be shot in the next maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then hopefully you guys have had a chance to see Jacob's Letters had some great work done on it too.
Well, I know we have a problem with Jacob's Ladder because there's just not much. So can you describe that project and what's going on there?
What we're trying to do with that one is just, we've cut a little bit of the slope as much as we felt was not going to create any kind of stability issues, but pushed it out a little bit. And we've got some places where cars can pass each other, at least now. You're limited on the one side because you've got the guardrail and the pond on one side, but you've also got the pretty substantial bluff on the other side too. So
Mhm.
we've tried to maximize that amount of space and create a little bit more room for people to be able to at least pass each other. Might not be through the entire thing, but it certainly has increased that space that we didn't have before.
Right. There's very little visibility and
Yes.
always the worry for me is that we create so much space that people increase their speed.
Right.
So if there's anything we can do to keep people going very slow through that
Yes.
would be great.
That was part of the conversation when we were trying to figure out exactly what we could squeeze in there. Because I agree with the same thing. You don't want people to go, comfortable speed through there is probably about maybe 15.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Susan, can you tell what work's already been done on Route 684 Tinkerville Road? As you're going up the hill, there was some rock added to the shoulder. Do you know about that?
Just as general maintenance.
I mean, the shoulder, really, there is no shoulder, and I believe it has started to eat away a little bit. Some rocks were added. I'm just wondering, is that the extent of what's going to be done there, or if that's just one part of what might be done there?
Normally, if there has been any sort of erosion in the shoulder and we don't have it listed as a project, then it's good because that's already surfaced. So basically all we do is just try to create some stability along that shoulder just to make sure that you don't have anything that continues to eat into the pavement.
How are gravel prices?
Higher than they were last year.
Still higher?
Nothing has gotten less expensive.
So
It's not as bad as our pipes. Our pipes went up 3 times.
This year again?
No,
Because
last year.
okay.
Yeah, they've been holding relatively steady. And the other thing too is a lot of our stone we have under contract, so it keeps the price at least for a finite period of time at the same cost per ton. So
I do have a question, and I'm sure Susan's good either way, but this is scheduled for being on the regular agenda, first item, but it's going to be a little while, and I didn't know if you all thought you might have additional questions for Susan during regular session, or if you wanted to let her go home.
I'm sure she would like to spend her evening with us. I mean, what better group of people? I mean, we ought to be charging.
I
them
mean,
this.
you could have resident
Yeah.
citizen comments
Yeah,
or
we're all
something,
here.
ask something,
We get
or-
to see them.
but you are, you will have a public hearing.
We're gonna,
on
we're
May
going
the
to
28th.
commit to advertising a public hearing. Right, that's what I was getting at.
Right.
I think we can wait for the public meeting, right? Are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
okay with that?
I think, I don't anticipate having anything further. Other
Enjoy
than-
your evening.
Thank you very much.
See, these are the little things that I throw out there so she'll answer my call. Remember when I got you out of the meeting?
All of us.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
463-3108 to get you, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
We'll say, you got that in your head there.
All righty, we will move on to the review of the 2025 budget. Mr. Harrison.
Yes, let me bring up my screen. You should have handouts of the memo and a revised, of course, the whole budget was again advertised. Let me pull up the memo. So the Finance Committee met after the last board meeting with the objective of producing a balanced budget, and they have done that. They did this by four things. Notably with the school is in the revised budget, as we talked about at the meeting on April 8th. The health insurance was reduced by 300,000. So originally they were looking at it, they had budgeted a 20% increase. And now they're only looking at a 10% increase. So that's a $300,000 savings. And they removed the $225,000 bonus from the school division's proposed budget, but left in the raises. The Finance Committee has recommended increasing the PAM for of the three new fire and rescue captains, PAM for one of them in the April 8th draft budget was already included to be used from the EMS recovery revenue, and the Finance Committee recommends two positions. I should be funded from the EMS recovery revenue. I should mention that they were looking at that possibility early on in their meetings, even before April 8th, funding two positions out of that. And we looked at the interest income being generated. Doesn't look like interest rates are coming down any time soon, which has its own drawbacks, but for our investments, that's looking good. So the total change was $810,128. Again, specifically with the schools, that looks like it's going to be the new norm for, again, the General Assembly and the governor are looking at a budget that, so I think next year we don't, we try to accommodate that with our budget schedule this year. It still didn't work. I think we just go with just keep with our traditional budget schedule. We have a good working relationship with the schools. So, because I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. This is the second year in a row of taking past. So the schools will have the equivalent of a 4% increase, which is a little over $1 million for the schools. The what was discussed with Finance Committee and communicated by Mr. Suter with the school superintendent was to we don't know. We still don't know what's going on. So if the General Assembly happens to fully fund that raise, say they fully funded 4%, then they would effectively reduce the local contribution, return it to us, and it's proposed to just set that amount back into the county's capital reserves. And but with knowing that any cost savings throughout the year, in the year cost savings would still go to the schools CIP.
I'll note there too that Dr. Thompson and I discussed the propensity sometimes of the state budget that comes out when they say, well, okay, we're going to go ahead and cut some deals amongst ourselves in the General Assembly and the governor, and we'll fund the raises, but then they find that money in another portion of the school's budget. So in that particular case, we had the discussion that if that's the case, we would need to have another discussion to make sure that they are fully funded with what they've got in their budget now, what they're expecting in revenues from the state now. In other words, they say it's going to raises, but they move it from somewhere else. They're going to need some assistance on that.
All they would need to do is just provide us with what they built their budget off of as far as the anticipated state number. And then once their budget is finalized, provide us with what that actual state number is. The difference would be what would come back. Because that accounts for the shell game that the state plays with the school budget.
And I don't disagree that traditionally staff, we don't, it's a categorical budget estimate of need. We don't ask at the, we really don't see the school budget until later in the summer when it's published. So if that's something that the Finance Committee would like to do, that's certainly, or the Executive Committee, have that discussion.
Yeah, especially if they're coming back asking for more. They need to show us.
So what we've done with the changes to the CIP from the first draft that the preliminary draft you adopted back in January, we have removed. I mentioned this at the April 8th meeting due to the appropriation for the sheriff's office vehicles of $512,000 for FY25. We removed that from the dollar amount, and that reflects in the budget, and that lets them go ahead and place purchase orders for those vehicles. And we have added to the school division budget the 4 school buses. Of 560,000. I just kind of took the initiative and added a 5% per year increase. Oh, that's not sharing. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Actually, what is the plan for the school buses going forward? Will we be adding this to the budget? We don't plan to take this out of reserves every year.
I would hope not. There we go. So, two-part thing. Yes, this is where I added the 5% increase. Hopefully, there wouldn't be any increase, but that's what we've done with the sheriff's office vehicles. There's anticipate at least a 5% increase per year. Back to your question on on reserves, the finance committee, as you are aware, they've already set aside enough money for the whole 5-year CIP in capital reserves. What they discussed, and we've already shown that on the balance sheet, is we've renamed that county CIP reserve. They said let's just call it capital reserve, and hopefully after when we look at the audits, we can fund that reserve even more. So with the goal of all of this, including the buses, would come from that assigned reserves and not your operating reserve, which that portion of the budget will come from those assigned capital reserves.
To answer your question, also to add to that, we're taking a new tack on this. Our budget surplus is building the budget reserve comes from year-end savings and additional revenues, unanticipated revenues, and that type of thing. We've not had an expenditure line on a general fund transfer to capital. Now we've just done that, but we're going to have to start doing that. Is start putting some money toward capital.
Just appropriate time to ask, is the plan to put a certain percent, a certain year to budget that as far as tax rate goes?
Yeah, I think we had discussed early in the year with the finance committee, actually I started having this conversation last year, what we did is and this is, I pulled up now our balance sheet. So we have this assigned.
It's like really big.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you can't see any of it.
So this right here, where you see assigned CIP projects, this is where we have put aside enough money to fund the full 5-year capital improvement plan adopted.
Mm-hmm.
The idea, it won't say CIP projects, it'll say capital reserves now. And with the goal of once the audit is completed, the finance committee will look at, of course, first is 20% minimum reserve requirement or then how much to put aside in the CIP or capital projects. Because finance committee was like, well, let's don't just limit it to CIP projects. If we have more reserves, because we always have things that come up, capital projects come up, or start building a reserve for even larger projects that we know
that we can foresee, the 5-year plan.
Or
ultimately, those won't be funded by what just happens to be left over. That would be a planned certain amount that comes that's budgeted.
correct. So we draw down from that when we do the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably be looking at January. We might be able to do it sooner, but at the latest, January after the audit is completed, that we have audited numbers we're working with, and the finance committee can make those determinations on how much to set aside. Additional to set aside to capital reserves.
I also think it's important to note that, 560 for the buses, really $160,000 increase for us because we were already funding the school division 400, and that wasn't enough to do 4 buses. So while we're not making the full contribution of 560 because we pulled 400 out of the budget, it is $160,000 increase to us in order for them to be able to do 4 buses per year, which keeps them on a 15-year cycle.
And so what you'll see for the buses, it is a little bit, we are treating just a little bit differently. Share. Share. So new in the budget is, we have the ones we've had always for a while, the transfer to school fund debt and the transfer to school operations. Now we added this line here, transfer to school capital fund. Like it should be called capital rather than construction. So that amount includes both the HVAC and the buses. And
Seems to be the same as the second one. Transfer to construction fund. Construction.
so this is the new. Oh,
Why would it?
and well, because we're also funding the
Fire replacement.
the fire panels and the bleachers.
Doesn't say construction should be.
I want to agree. I think I haven't had a chance to meet with David Daniels. I think maybe it should be called capital rather than just construction because it is, and they're using it for other capital projects too. So it's not specific to construction.
Their state report that they do with the state category.
And I just haven't. So I left the terminology there, but I just haven't met with David Daniels on that. And you'll also see that in the you'll see that in the public notice that transfer is now separate, and that's so that of course both boards and notably the public knows how much is actually going towards school capital and not operations and debt. So they actually can see money going into that. You'll see that in your public notice now. So the total budget is $64,471,724. And again, that's a balance budget. Just as a reminder, we should get at least about 990,000 back from the HVAC project in FY25 from the energy tax credit. So that's something like that, which is I presume would go back to the capital reserve. And we get it, notify the finance committee and get their okay to do that. Any type of those. And we'll also look at that on year-end fund balances when we're achieving surpluses. That's all I have from the changes made from April 8th.
And during the regular meeting, of course, we will be asking to advertise the budget tomorrow in our two local papers, or well, one of them not tomorrow, but end of the week, Doug. And yeah, that's it. That we just, if there's any discussion on it, you want to make any changes, please let us know.
And as a reminder, May 6th is a special meeting, an extra meeting,
Public hearing with
for a public hearing.
hopefully adoption on the 13th. Regular meeting.
Anything else?
I know we've talked about that. I don't want to be to just go on about it, but I think that's great. Setting aside money for capital is very prudent. So it's from my perspective, you're always wanting that, and so to see a board and a county administrator support that is good. It makes it a lot easier, especially if you have, and we will, at some point, there'll be a recession. That doesn't mean you have to put a hold on all your capital projects that you've been planning. Just because you might have to make some changes to your operating budget, but at least you can still
Especially
continue with those
Since
capital,
prices will probably go down, it's not the time to stop.
hopefully. Yeah.
I'd just real quick like to take a moment to thank Ashton for all his work on this. It's been a pleasure. A couple years ago, it was pretty tough on me, and got a whole lot better last year and even better this year. So I'd really like to recognize Ashton. I also like to thank Supervisors Lewis and Lyons for their service on the Finance Committee. They really did a great job for the board this year.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody. I mean, I believe this is the 6th year that we've balanced the budget without having to raise taxes. So,
I think it's good.
yeah.
Yeah. The 6th year was only 1 cent. So, yes. It's
That
5
could
years.
change in the 7th year, so don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's not jinx
All
it.
good things have got to come to an end.
Let's not jinx it.
Yeah, and just as a reminder to anybody watching, of course, it went from 73 cents, the real estate tax rate, down to 61 cents last year. But of course, that was equalizing it. So, you could say you lowered it, but in reality, it equalized the tax rate. But it was good to see that thing down in the low 60s again.
And then, of course, the business personal property will be going down 25 cents. So that should, so our business community should be helping.
It's hard for our citizens to understand that we're bringing in more money with that tax going down. It's a hard thing to explain to them, but I try. I'll need a refresher course from you.
Yeah, so yeah, hopefully, and as you see in your monthly reports, and we reflected that in our revenue estimates. The sales and mills tax are going strong. Yeah, I think that's a good sign.
I'm curious how much is from new revenues in that department and how much is from the inflation on that.
That's true.
No, I'd like to be able to separate that out and kind of understand.
As prices increase, the amount of the percent, that's true. But we've had some restaurants come on, notably like Chick-fil-A and stuff like that too. So
How are we doing with the Airbnb, the lodging tax along with that? That has changed somewhat now, correct? Do we get the report from the state?
It's required, I think, of Airbnb to send the funds, but I'm not aware that we'll get to split out on those yet.
I wish there's more of a push on that. Our lodging tax, when I report, I want to clarify this, when I reported that it's down, it's just not meeting the current budget. It's flat compared to previous years. Just when we're looking at the FY24 budget, we're seeing we had made an assumption that since sales tax and mills tax were going strong, that lodging tax would naturally be as also because this is tax related to the economic activity, and we missed the mark on that. And I do suspect, and I know the county has made efforts to Office of Community Development and Spencer and the commissioner to try to capture more accurately the Airbnb revenue or short-term rental revenue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is it a slowdown? I mean, or do you feel that this is a slowdown in that market?
It's just not an increase. Yeah. Which it could be, we're just not capturing it. because of all the short-term rentals.
We got another hotel getting ready to come online. I can't give a date, but it's not too far in the future. True Hotel, and then we got another one under construction, as you know. And you know, some folks might say that, well, that's just going to move people from one hotel to the other and spread them out a little bit. I personally, I don't think that's exactly the case. I think there's a lot of weekends and very busy weekends when folks can't find a hotel in this area, and if they could, they'd be staying here closer to the event that they were attending, but they've got to go to Roanoke or Stanton or somewhere else to get a hotel. And I think that's really going to help us out on those heavy weekends,
And the
which
quality-
translates to additional revenue.
And the quality of hotels, when you have new hotels, that changes. People do look at those things.
Anything else, gentlemen? If not, we will take a short break before our regular meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, you did?
Good evening. Are you ready? Yes. Good evening. I will call the Monday, April 22nd, 2024 meeting to order. And I take roll. Mr. McDaniel.
Here.
Mr. Lyons.
Here.
Mr. Day.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Present.
And the chair is here. Indication. We will now have a prayer for the board, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those attending are not required to participate, but if you would like to join us, please stand.
Dear Lord, please hear us as we seek your direction and comfort as we deliberate today for the best outcomes for our citizens. We need your guidance to remain steadfast to ensure our greatest ability, provide our best guidance. Let us keep to heart the principles upon which this country was founded. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizens' comments near the beginning of the meeting. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial in one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of the Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling by telephone. Are there any recommended changes to this agenda?
No, ma'am.
Not. We'll move on to citizens' comments. When your name, we will now welcome citizen comments. When your name is called, please address the board at the podium, stating your first and last name and magisterial district. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. There is a timer on the table for your convenience. Is there anyone signed up?
Yes, ma'am. A Brian Crockett.
Mr. Crockett.
Good evening, Brian Crockett. I'm part of the Lions District. Don't know the number. Sorry.
Cars Creek.
I have two topics, and I've spoke of these topics before. I just wanted to get an update and share information that I'm hearing from others. I live in Kyerstown, so the Effinger Firehouse always is a topic, especially on the emergency service. And one of the things that I'm hearing that I don't know is true is that they're in some type of negotiations or council with the Board of Supervisors in regards to how they're going to provide that service in the future. I'm one of those that would tell you that no matter where you live, that emergency services is critical. And the two areas that I think have to be on that agenda is the ability to respond to an emergency and then the timeliness of it. And if we think that we're going to have somebody from some other part of the county have to respond to a call, my concern is if we keep track of those statistics, we're all going to be in a liability issue because we're not going to be able to serve that community. And if they're providing that services to other parts of the county, that's all well and good. My concern is the Kyerstown area and somebody's really responding to a call and they're coming over from Glasgow. I've done some of the drives, they're 35 minutes. And as you know, when it comes to safety, that is just critical. And 35 minutes is not even close to acceptable. So as you make these negotiations or agreements, or I hope that you keep that in mind, that there is a community out in Kyerstown, Effinger, that really does care about emergency services. And we all grieve the loss of J.D. Clemmer. He held it together for many years, but maybe this is a good opportunity for the county to negotiate with Effinger on what type of services they could really provide. So we'd be open to every, but I'm very concerned on some of the solutions that have been proposed. The second topic is the internet. I read a commercial the other day. I'm old and retired, so I watched a commercial the other day, and I said, I gotta say this. because we don't think of it. 60 years ago, electric in our homes that was provided was critical for everybody to have. It wasn't bipartisan. It wasn't on the left. It wasn't on the right. It was critical for you to have to run your home. Well, today the internet is critical, no matter what it costs, how it gets there. We just seem to be lagging, and especially in the remote areas, as providing that. I'm not saying that to the Board of Supervisors, but whether it's federal, state, or local, we got to see that as a high priority, because we are falling behind in the services and the access to that information. So think of the internet as part of the electrical system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there someone else?
No, ma'am.
Is there anybody online?
No one has their hand raised.
Anyone else that didn't have an opportunity to sign up that would like to have anything to say? All right. Approval of the April 8th, 2024 Board of Supervisors regular meeting minutes. Are there any questions or comments on these minutes, gentlemen? If not, is there a motion to approve them?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Consideration of the county appropriation resolution, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, we have 3 different appropriations we're requesting for the general fund, both the hazmat reimbursement and a grant in a total amount of $6,341. And for the capital fund for the purchase of a chemical feeder, $2,775. And the total bills this period is $514,137.30.
Questions? Comments? Your motion?
That we pay the bills.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Consideration to advertise the VDOT 6-year plan, Mr. Suter.
Yes, as you know, Residency Administrator Susan Hammond reviewed the draft 6-year plan, and the work session just concluded. In keeping with our standard process, we did place this item on the regular agenda now so that the board can take action on setting a public hearing. VDOT does take care of the advertising for us, and our recommendation is to set the public hearing for the second board meeting in May. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have thought of since then.
You did say second board meeting in May.
Yes,
just to be clear.
it would
May
be
28th.
it's the 28th, which is after Memorial Day.
We set that schedule public hearing.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? And I vote yes. Presentation by Natural Bridge State Park.
Yes, as noted in your agenda package, Natural Bridge State Park Manager Jim Jones requested an opportunity to provide the board with an update on the park.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. It's been a while. I wanted to kind of give you an update on how things are going. I had a handout there and kind of interpretation of some of the handouts. This is just the attendance. In 2023 was 230,000. We've been kind of averaging 200,000, and I was kind of surprised and pleased to see that 2023 was on its way up. And you can see in 2022 it was almost 221,000. But interesting enough that there's 1,658 camping nights that we've had. We've got a primitive campground. It's a group campground, and it's on the off of Golf Course Road there inside the park. So it's starting to get traction, and we're right pleased with that. And that's going on. And if you look in January, the comparison from the same period of time, from January to March, there was 23,400 in attendance, and last year the same amount of time. So we're running ahead of that. And you can see how the camping has increased over last year. March this year, our attendance is 14,047, and last year at 10,000, almost 11,000 there. the revenues for March this year, 188,000. And then what caught my attention there was that's the highest March we've had since the park has been open. Highest March, even compared to the COVID month, March in 2021, which you'll see there, 164,000. And you see the comparison between same dates in June or January to March 23, 24. Some of the things I wanted to tell you that's kind of happening that's brand new is our previous assistant park manager, who's been promoted to park manager at Smith Mountain Lake. It seems like the good ones just keep coming right on through, and we're glad for that. But he started a program called Right Here, and it came to us from a blind person in Roanoke, Virginia. And this person said, just don't have the accessibility for people with visual impairments. And so from that, he's turned us on to this program with Right Here. It's an international program. We've purchased, the Friends purchased the first year, and there are 7 beacons that a blind person can use on their phone, downloading the app to do that. When we learn more about it, there's 26 different languages that this can be translated into, and it's also in print. So it began to realize that not just blind, but those who are deaf and those who are from another country can actually get information and direction. So there's 7 beacons that the Friends bought, and we put them into the visitor center to help give you direction as soon as you get in, to how to get to the counter where the rangers are, and navigate you through the visitor center where the restrooms are, the steps, and on out. Just recently, the Community Health Foundation gave us $19,000 to extend the beacons almost for another 5 years. So we're going to add more beacons and allow for interpretation along Cedar Creek. So that's just something that's interesting that's come along. And this year being the year that State Parks is calling the year of accessibility, there's an in-chroma viewer. There's 2 of them at the park. And in-chroma viewers are just like what you see when you go and look at some of the observation places. But this one's a little special because it's designed for the colorblind, to be able to see the colors that we see. And it's fall and different things on it. So the in-chroma viewers on there. I do want to wish you happy Earth Day, because this is a fairly green day for us. And on all of these things are good things that are going on. And in April is that time when we're celebrating with Kids Fishing Day. We had 58 adults and 62 children. This is also the Dark Sky Month. And the bees, we put in the 4 hives of bees from Mohawk. I just want to kind of give them a shout out. I do want to give our county administrator a shout out for as much time as he gave to us on Kids Fishing Day, helping there, as long as other residents in the community. So as part of this, I wanted to toss this over to Jesse, who's our Chief Ranger at the park, Jesse Carter, and she's going to tell you something that we just won on the state level, Virginia Green Travel Council.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Last year, we were given the okay to start implementing some sustainability and recycling programs within the park, and 2023 was very successful for us. We received a earth machine from Boxerwood, and in that earth machine, we recycled 375.66 pounds of food waste. It was all composted on site. We will be using that compost to go into our flower beds when our Youth Conservation Corps comes in this summer. We collected 904.3 pounds of food and beverage glass. We then transported it to Earth Magic Recycling in Buena Vista, Virginia, where that glass was crushed into sand. The Friends Group of Natural Bridge purchased 9 tons of that sand back to be put into the disc golf course at Natural Bridge State Park. We recycled 1,000 pounds of plastic film, so you know, your grocery bags, ice bags, all that, 1,000 pounds of it, and received 2 Nextrex benches. Those are very high-end benches that we were given. We have 3 of them now, so that's in total 1,500 pounds of film that has been recycled from Natural Bridge State Park. The Friends Group has collected over $2,600 from recycling scrap metals, aluminum cans, and that's come from a variety of projects, whether it be demo projects or just simply cleaning up within our state park. We have also decreased our recycling fees. We've recycled a lot more responsibly this year by separating our recyclables and cut back on our spending by 25%, which in return saved the park $700 in fees. And we also opted to use solar energy for a variety of projects at Natural Bridge State Park. For example, the Kids Fishing Day, the solar eclipse was powered. Well, not the solar eclipse was powered, but our register
It was
that
actually.
was powered by solar energy. So we have been doing everything we can to create a very green program and also teach our guests as they come to the park these little things they can take home with them that makes a really, really big difference. Thank you for having me. Oh, the awards, the big part. So all of that won us 3 awards at the Virginia Green Travel Alliance. The first one being the Green Park of the Year Award. So that was a pretty big one for us. I also received an award myself for being the person who led the project. And then we even won a social media award, so the People's Choice Award. And that was from gaining likes and people sharing all of our social media posts about this project.
Ms. Carter, Mr. Jones, it's always a pleasure to have you come tell us the wonderful things that are going on there. You make us very proud. Thank you. Consideration of farmers market application for Cars Creek Community Market. Mr. Suter.
Yes, as noted in your package, Ms. Rebecca Almy has submitted a farmer's market application to take over the ownership and operation of a previously approved farmer's market on the property of Stephen Hart, located at 2766 West Midland Trail. Mr. Hart was the applicant last year, and section 4.51 of County Code states that the initial permit may be for a term of up to 1 year, and any subsequent permit may be for up to a term of 5 consecutive years, provided that the applicant has operated at least 1 season in accordance with the initial permit and any prior permit granted in the last 3 years under that article. Since Ms. Almy is the applicant and the new manager of the farmers market, the new application would be in effect for 1 year should the board approve. And then certainly if Ms. Almy subsequently returns with an application again next year, the code would allow for consideration of a 5-year approval. And I'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have.
Any? No? A motion?
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Consideration of an outdoor event application and license agreement for Balloons Over Rockbridge. Mr. Suter.
Misspelled event.
I'm sorry.
No, Balloons Over Rockbridge is again planning its fundraiser for this summer. In accordance with county code, their organizers have submitted an outdoor events application. All materials are in order from staff's perspective, with the exception of insurance coverage limits, which I just spoke with them about, that we're going to get together on. And they need to be slightly amended, and that should be no problem. And additionally, this is new this year and similar to the South River Volunteer Fire Department tractor pull that you approved at the last meeting. Mr. Dryden has drafted a license agreement for this event since part of the property used is leased from the Virginia Horse Center to Rockbridge County. So we recognize that we needed to do the same lease agreement.
Madam Chair, members of board, thank you for having us. I'm Robert Forsman with Balloons Over Rockbridge. We're in our 8th year of existence, 7th year of actually holding the event at the Oak Hill property. During last year's event, we were able to donate to our respective charities over $21,000. And this year, our charities are the Friends of Natural Bridge State Park, Hope House, Rockbridge Recovery, Lexington Fire and Rescue, Rockbridge County Emergency Services, Street Ransom, Lamp Stand in Roanoke, which deals with human trafficking throughout the region, and then also the Mary Carroll Moore Scholarship Fund. This year, we'll be having 21 balloons on site. The event will run July 6th and 7th from 2 to 9:30 each evening, with flights occurring both at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. both days. There'll be tethered rides in the afternoon. We'll have a variety of vendors throughout the day. There will be activities for children. As Mr. Suter said, we have submitted all the proper paperwork to include the incident action plan along with the other documents. The incident action plan right now is currently in draft form. We just have to clean up some phone numbers and make sure the contacts are correct for each agency. We did add this year that in the event of severe weather or a man-made event that we have worked with the Horse Center and developed an evacuation plan, and part of that plan includes how we would re-enter the facility after the event has occurred. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Anybody? Thank you, Mr. Forsman.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? And if not, is there a motion to approve the outdoor event application and license agreement subject to receipt of adequate insurance coverage for the county?
Yes, ma'am. I move we approve with that condition of adequate.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Is there a second? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Consideration to advertise the draft 2025 budget. Mr. Harrison.
Yes, including your packet is a copy of a public notice for the balanced FY25 budget. We're requesting the public hearing be scheduled for May 6th and adoption on May 13th.
Questions for Mr. Harrison? Not.
Is it too late to drop this and just start all over?
Yeah, let's just wait on the state.
Just kidding. I'd like to thank Finance Committee and Mr. Harrison, Mr. Suter, and all involved for their work on the budget and preparing it for us. And again, I think I said earlier in the work session, I believe this is the 5th year, but, without having to increase real estate taxes to get a balanced budget. So very proud of that and proud of their work. And I'll move that we advertise on May the 6th for public hearing.
All right.
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Consideration of the lease agreement with Virginia Housing for rental assistance.
As you know, Virginia Housing has taken over the management of the rental assistance program. The county no longer participates in it directly. In the interim, from taking over the rental assistance offices are not able to be moved out just as of yet. And so Virginia Housing has asked that they could rent for a temporary basis the existing offices. The terms of the rental would be a 6-month term, renewable 2 times with the approval of the county. And the amount for each 6-month period is $5,391.59.
Thank you.
That amount is for the entire 6-month period.
That amount is for the 6-month period and includes also the rental of the county furniture, which is in the offices.
And the two extension periods, each extension period is 6 months.
Each sentence period 6 months and subject to the approval of the county.
Just for my interest, how did we come to that value?
I'm not sure how we got to 59 cents.
You mean got to the 59 cents?
I mean, did we use square footage?
We use square footage. We use the,
Cost allocation plan.
yeah, the cost allocation plan, and which we have to allocate to different agencies. For example, when we allocate to the extension office square footage to split that up with Lexington. So that's what we use to have a basis. And also, I can't remember exactly how we got to the furniture and fixtures, but we did put a value on that so that they could insure them.
Yeah, if there are no more questions or comments, is there a motion to authorize the county administrator to enter into agreement subject to legal review?
So move.
Mr. McDaniel, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Move on to appointments. Mr. Pufall, Board of Zoning Appeals, term expires 5/24/24. Mr. Pufall is willing to be reappointed. Is there any discussion?
I move that we reappoint him.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Move on to the CSPDC, non-elected representative. Chris Sladen's term expires June 30th, 2024. Mr. Sladen is willing to be reappointed. Is there any discussion?
I move that we reappoint Mr. Sladen.
Second.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And I vote yes. And finally, we,
Madam Chair, just to clear that up, or not to clear it up, but to add something. As you know, I'm the elected representative to the commission, and it's a very useful group. There's always relevant regional information given, and there is a recent new executive director, Ms. Ann Cundy. Many of you may know from her work there at the commission already in regards to transportation. But I'm glad that we reappointed Chris. I think it's good to certainly have that continuity with a new executive director. But of course, she's aware of our region and works well with us. But I just wanted to let everybody know that that's important. I appreciate Mr. Slade's service.
thank you. Move on to EDA. Janie Harris's term expires 4/10/26. And we right now do not have an application, although I have reached out and to someone, and maybe we will soon. But any ideas?
I have also. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some applications.
Okay, and board comments. Are there any board comments or committee updates? No? Okay, well, if not, actually, I would I think I would like to address a few of Mr. Crockett's concerns, just to give him a little update. Mr. Crockett, when Effinger has a call, it's not Glasgow that goes to those calls. It would be the city of Lexington and Cars Creek, and I think Mr. Suter could speak to that probably better than I can. But I just do want you to know that the county is very, very much on the county's mind, and we are working toward a solution there, as all of the health and the services that we provide throughout the county. So we are doing that. And I definitely think Mr. Suter could speak to our priorities, the internet and services, and I'll let him do that.
Well, as Mr. Crockett knows, we've got 2 grants in the hopper for your area. That's the only area of the county where we actually have 2 grants. So I attended a meeting out there. Gosh, it's been pushing a year. No, it wasn't a year ago. It was last summer. Yeah. So attended a meeting out there, hugely attended for a rural community like that. We packed the Collierstown Presbyterian Church Fellowship Hall, which is large. And There, like I say, there are two grants. One, attended a meeting the other day with USDA, with Richard Jenkins, the local USDA representative, who actually lives in the county but takes care of about 3 or 4 states for broadband. And we should be hearing something very soon on the first grant, the federal grant. That one, we were supposed to hear something about it last fall, and turns out that the application format that the federal government sent out was incorrect and out of code, so they had to redo the entire thing. But it was an easy rewrite. So it's a race to see which one of these grants gets announced first. I'm hoping that one of the two announcements will be positive. So the other one is a VADI grant, Virginia Telecommunications Initiative. That entire Collierstown area is included in that as well. So we put a tremendous amount of effort into it, and we are highly prioritizing that to the point where the Board of Supervisors put nearly 90% or dedicated nearly 90% of the CARES Act funds, I'm sorry, ARPA funds toward grant match to increase our chances of success to get internet, not just there, but across the entire county.
I'm sorry, as to the commitment of this board for seeing that broadband is deployed, we've applied for the Virginia Telecommunications Project for the past 4 years, I think. So it's no lack of effort on the Board of Supervisors' part.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything else, gentlemen?
I'm sorry, I did have one question for Mr. Dryden in regards to the previous agenda item of software contract. I realized when my comments were going, once I got to digest that, most of my questions would be related to the details in the contract. So I was wondering if I'm sure you've been working on that, and when you get a draft, if we could look at it sooner than later, so we could.
Yeah, we have our first meeting on the review of the contract, along with our external advisor on to go through that. So I expect that we'll probably have something to talk about fairly soon. So we have the external company we hired to help us to go through this difference. And so at any rate, we'll have something reviewed next week, and some pretty good, hopefully some good progress. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Happy to give you an update as we go along with it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Mr. Lewis, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? And I vote yes. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.